wisdom,
prudentia,
justice,
justitia,
temperance,
temperantia,
courage.
fortitudo.
Applying ancient philosophy to modern life, this is the Sunday Stoic.
This is the Sunday Stoic, and I'm Steve, coming to you from Conway, Arkansas. And I want to thank Marcy and Elizabeth for joining as patrons at patreon.com/SundayStoic. Your support helps to keep the show going and gives me a bit of motivation as well, knowing that I'm reaching folks out there. Thank you for that support, and I appreciate it greatly. This week we are going to continue our quest through the Enchiridion. We're going to look at chapters 12, 13, and 14. And Epictetus focuses on his favorite subject here, which is essentially our character and externals and our relationship to the external world and how we should craft our viewpoint and change our viewpoint in terms of how we relate to the outside world. This is not an instantaneous process. It is not something that you control in the sense that you can just flip a switch and change the way you feel about the world, but it's a process. It's an ongoing process of refinement and change, and we have to realize that life is a process. It's not a flip of the switch and I am now a Stoic. It is a transformation, like a metamorphosis over time, and that's what we're working on. Slow, gradual change, hopefully mostly in the correct direction. And the only way we can really know how to move in the correct direction is to think about what our goals are. What do we want to be? We can't just change for the sake of change. We have to have a target. And that's the point of the Stoic sage or of role models, to give us something to aim for. So think about that as you continue your quest. Who are you trying to become? If you're just trying to change without really having a map in front of you, without having a destination in mind, you may never reach the destination, mind you, but you have to know where you're sailing. Otherwise, you're just being blown in random directions on the sea adrift without a destination at hand. The Enchiridion, Chapter 12. If you wish to make progress, abandon reasonings of this sort. If I neglect my affairs, I shall have nothing to live on. If I do not punish my son, he will be wicked. For it is better to die of hunger, so that you be free from pain and free from fear, than to live in plenty and be troubled in mind. It is better for your son to be wicked than for you to be miserable. Wherefore, begin with the little things. Is your drop of oil spilt? Is your sup of wine stolen? Say to yourself, this is the price paid for freedom from passion. This is the price of a quiet mind. Nothing can be had without a price. When you call your slave boy, reflect that he may not be able to hear you, and if he hears you, he may not be able to do anything you want. But he is not so well off that it rests with him to give you peace of mind. The Enchiridion, Chapter 13. If you wish to make progress, you must be content in external matters to seem a fool and a simpleton. Do not wish men to think you know anything, and if any should think you to be somebody, distrust yourself. For know that it is not easy to keep your will in accord with nature and at the same time keep outward things. If you attend to one, you must neglect the other. Chapter 14. It is silly to want your children and your wife and your friends to live forever, for that means that you want what is not in your control to be in your control, and what is not your own to be yours. In the same way, if you want your servant to make no mistakes, you are a fool. For you want vice not to be vice, but something different. But if you want not to be disappointed in your will to get, you can attend to that. Exercise yourself then in what lies in your power. Each man's master is the man who has authority over what he wishes or does not wish, to secure the one or to take away the other. Let him then who wishes to be free not wish for anything, or avoid anything that depends on others, or else he is bound to be a slave. So, is it better to have peace of mind than to worry about your child being wicked? I think we could have a long talk about that. I would have a hard time at the moment having peace of mind if my son were wicked, but ultimately the buck stops with him. Well, right now he's 4, so I have a lot of responsibility, but when he's an adult, he's an independent being. Even now he's an independent being. I can't control his actions. I can give suggestions, right? But what he's saying here is that we need to understand when to let things go. We need to understand it doesn't mean we don't intervene in the world, we don't interact in the world, but he's giving extreme examples here, of course, the birds and the flowers don't worry about food. Why do you worry about food? That sort of argument. Your son will be fine. They'll take care of themselves. You'll be all right. Well, that's approaching cynic levels of detachment. I don't think I'll ever be quite there. But he says the price for freedom is the sacrifices we make. Having spilt wine or loss of oil or something stolen. This is like the tax we give to the universe for our peace of mind. Because normally that would happen and we would get mad, but we just let it go. We just say, I understand that when these things happen, it's not up to me. It's kind of like the innkeeper kicking us out of the inn. That glass of wine wasn't meant for me. Now it's smashed on the floor. That's okay. It's not up to me. It's the tax I pay to have this peace of mind, to have equanimity. We're aiming for equanimity here, not total detachment. We're still going to intervene in the world when we can. We're still going to try to educate others, but we know we can't control others. Others are not automatons that we can control with a remote control to do our bidding. That's not how it works. It's how we wish it worked sometimes. I want you to change your behavior now. We don't have that ability. We can suggest, we can talk, we can love, and eventually we might learn we should just shut up because it's not going to do any good. But that is our own personal choice. That's when we apply practical wisdom to our situations. But ultimately, he says we should not give others control over our peace of mind. It's not up to others to radio control our heads, right? They don't control us. We should not allow them to. And how many times have you done that? I've done this all the time, given others control over my peace of mind. They'll say something, they'll do something, and I'll think about it for days. It'll come up when I'm trying to sleep. I am letting others live in my head when they should not have the authority, the right, or the power to do so, but I let them in. We need to watch that. Meanwhile, he says progress. To make progress, we're going to need to focus on what we're trying to progress in. So how do we do that? We need to focus on, first of all, what are the goals we have in mind? Who are we trying to be? If we don't know that, we might as well stop. If you're just trying to study philosophy without kind of a goal in mind of who you want to be, not that you'll ever be there, but you have a target, you have a port to sail towards. Who are you trying to become? What does your best self look like in your mind, at least at the moment? And then try to work in that direction. But in order to work in that direction, you will likely be thought a fool by people that you used to hang out with. Why? Because you're not going to be up on the latest scores on your football team. You're not going to know what the stock market's doing necessarily. You're not going to know what celebrity married what celebrity. That sort of thing may well go by the wayside, at least for a while. And if others start to think you are an expert in life, distrust yourself. Maybe you're leaning too hard into externals again. Or if someone starts to think you're an expert in philosophy, distrust yourself, because we're probably not there yet. So, if you want to make progress, be okay with that. Be okay with letting things go. We have to declutter our lives in order to move in the direction we want to sail in. Think of it like being in a hot air balloon. You want to sail higher and higher towards your goals. We're going to have to drop some ballast. We're going to have to throw some things overboard in order to gain altitude. To get up the mountain, we have to drop some stuff. We're going to lighten our packs. What things will you need to let go to lighten your pack so you can get higher up the mountain, closer to that mythical position of the sage? I know I have a problem with possessions. I have too much crap. And then emotional baggage and anger occasionally, and holding on to things I used to do that I think a person should do, even though now I'm not so sure. As I've grown up and changed, I should let certain things go, and it's hard sometimes. And in the last reading, he mentions, do not want what is against nature. We've talked about this in a previous episode. It's foolish to want loved ones to live forever. It's foolish to want people not to make mistakes. It's foolish to want people to be perfect because you're wishing for what is not according to nature. Your wishes are not matching reality. You have to live in the world you're in, messes and all. You have to live with who you are. You can improve yourself, but ultimately there are some parameters we cannot change. So we need to work on what is within our power. Our ability to adapt and overcome, to work with others, to change our minds, to seek new routes. Those things are in our control. But if we don't do that, if we start leaning more and more into externals as our source of contentment, then we will be slaves of others, because whoever controls what we want will be our masters. If we want popularity, the masses will be our masters. If we want possessions, then our boss who controls our income or the store will be our master. The idea here is freedom. The freedom to walk through a shopping mall or scroll through Amazon.com and say, I don't need these things. Maybe there's something, it doesn't mean we never order anything. You might want something occasionally and indifferent. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying we go live on top of a real mountain somewhere and give up possessions. But I am saying we often confuse things for happiness. We confuse situations for happiness. We think we need some kind of situation to occur to be happy. But happiness is also, like life, a process. It's not an end goal. You have to find happiness in the journey, not in the end. And if you think that obtaining something or getting recognition or crossing some finish line will be where happiness lies, you will be severely disappointed. And if we think happiness lies just across the finish line, then the finish line becomes our master and it will have power over us. So, let's focus on remembering that it's up to us to be happy. We can't rely on how others act. And in order to make this progress, we may have to give up some things for now. We may look a little bit foolish, but ultimately, the price of freedom is worth it. So, thank you for listening. You can get a Stoic coin by clicking the link in the show description if you so desire. You can buy one and skip it across the pond. You can buy one and put it in your pocket. You can buy one and put it on the shelf. It's an indifferent to me, but I'd prefer to sell them. Thanks for your help. Have a great week. I hope you can apply some of this information in your daily lives. And until I see you again, seize the day. Carpe diem.
Thank you for listening to the Sunday Stoic. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review the Sunday Stoic on iTunes. Become a member of the Sunday Stoic team, earn rewards, and be an integral part of the show by becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/SundayStoic. Contact the show by emailing sundaystoic@gmail.com or by leaving a voicemail at 501-503-3132. To find out more, visit www.sundaystoicpodcast.com. And as Steve always says, Carpe Diem.